Hello Brawlhallers, my name is Berthan and I'm here to answer possibly the most asked question in Brawlhalla, which is how do you beat passive players? Now obviously passive can include a lot of different things, and being passive isn't quite limited to just one definition in Brawlhalla, so I want to make clear that in this video, I will be focusing on how to counter players that would rather wait until you do an attack so that they can dodge or jump away, usually backwards, then punish you. I'm going to be showing clips of people dodging a lot, jumping a lot, and even wall hugging, and showing you how to deal with them effectively in just 3 simple steps. If you have been paying attention to the gameplay, then you will notice that the Orion with the classic skin and the haunting color starts off dodging in place a lot, which is called spot dodging. He does this quite a bit throughout the match, around 24 times give or take. I think that most of you would agree, standing there and spot dodging 24 times in one game is not exactly aggressive. I am the other Orion that is using heatwave colors, and I had a lot of trouble dealing with this at first. Let's look back at the beginning again and see what happened. So, he started off the game with a spot dodge, then of course the game plays out and he does a couple more dodges, including plenty of spot dodges, just within the first 30 seconds of the game. And it's working out for him, but I figured out his strategy at that point and started countering him with my own strategy. I call this strategy the pressure, wait, and punish. The worst thing you can do when someone is repeatedly spot dodging you is to actually attack them while they're dodging. Once you do this, you're screwed, because you're stuck in attack animation while they're in perfect position to hit you. So instead of hitting them, you can wait out their spot dodge, which is currently 22 frames, and since Brawlhalla runs at 60 frames per second, that means a dodge is about 1/3 of a second. That doesn't mean you should wait out the full 22 frames, but rather you start attacking about 1 to 15 frames after you see the dodge. The timing you need to start your attack depends on things like the startup and active frames of your punish move, and your reaction speed. Most people are pretty familiar with the waiting part of this strategy, but most people don't apply pressure before waiting, which just leads to nothing happening. To apply pressure, you have to make the enemy think that you're going to attack them, when you're actually just pretending to do so to force out their dodge. Then you can punish them. Here's a couple of clips where I pressure them by speed dodging forward and then stopping completely for a fraction of a second, then punishing them for wasting a dodge, especially if it was an air dodge, because those have about 3 seconds of cooldown, unless they touch the ground, which would change the ground dodge cooldown, which is only 1 second. This method is very safe and effective, because you are invulnerable, so even if they decided to attack, you would still be safe. You can also simply jump forward into a range where you can hit them, but instead of hitting, you jump straight up, then when they dodge, go in for the punish. And of course you can do this in place of a string. For example, you get a down air on the enemy and you could go for a side air or a neutral air and it would absolutely hit if they didn't dodge. But they do, so you just let yourself fall, then the enemy will dodge only to be met with an attack after their dodge. This is pretty much the basis of my guitar strings and follow-ups guide. The reason this is so effective is because when you hit the enemy, the possibility of a follow-up is always possible. That's why enemies will most likely mash the dodge key after they're hit, so if you're prepared for it, then you can keep the attacks coming if you wait out the dodge. This is not that hard. If the enemy spot dodges, then you know exactly where they are and how to react and all that. The real challenge that a lot of people face in lower ranks is when the enemy is constantly back dodging, and every time you go in and throw out an attack, you're just smacked in the face after the enemy effortlessly dodges backwards. This doesn't happen as often in higher ranks, so I was a bit worried I'd have to work hard to find some clips, but luckily, I actually Q ranked into one of the most passive / defensive player I've ever seen. I know, right? The only time I would actually be happy when that happens. So here it is, me playing guitars versus a chronic back dodging Val. As you can see, I'm no stranger to this type of style, and I admit it used to be a huge problem when a forward dodge and a backward dodge were pretty much the same, except back dodging was safer, but dodging forward now has an advantage. That is being able to chain dodge to close the gap. You can't do this with a back dodge, since you'd have to run for a bit of time backwards before you can get a speed dodge going. And if the enemy is already running backward, then they're just giving up map control, so you just corner them. But if they do try to be sneaky and backdodge like this Val, you can now dodge forward up to 3 times, then punish them after they have wasted their dodge. I will link my guide to chain dodging at the end of the video and put it in my description, so if you're unfamiliar with speed dodging, then check that out. You'll notice that I will often speed dodge straight forward at first, then diagonally upwards. This is mostly because the Val does a lot of down signature, so the safest approach would be above since the down signature doesn't reach that high. This worked well because there were a lot of times where I did go straight flat on the ground into an attack, so the Val still expects me to hit from the ground, and this is really important because if I never approached from the ground, then the Val wouldn't be using down signature so much. She used it because of the pressure of a ground approach that the first ground dodge gives the impression of. I ended up barely winning that game, but that was only because I was a bit too impatient and went forward a bit too much because I was looking for clips for this video, which gave the enemy free damage a lot of times, but I still managed to win. So that goes to show how effective this method is. And to no one's surprise, the Val also hugged the wall quite a bit that game. And at first I just went in with quick down airs and ground pounds, but then I noticed that she was expecting them, so I did the strategy again. In this clip, I faked a ground pound by jumping up, but instead I used neutral air, which made the Val react by using recovery, which is meant to disrupt the ground pound, but she missed and I punished her. In this clip, I rotate left and right to make it look like I could attack from the left, but then I went to the right. And then I did it a second time, but that time I turned left very slightly, then immediately ground pounded to the right, and by that time the Val was running out of jumps, and decided to go to the right side because of my slight movement to the left, and got hit by the ground pound to the right instead. To finish the game, I repeatedly went above her as if to ground pound, but I didn't for a while. So she was probably very nervous and ended up doing a poorly spaced recovery, which I was able to punish with the ground pound. Faking the ground pound can force out things like jumps, dodges, and in this case, an attack while being in a safe position to punish those things. Now, for probably the most common problem that people in every rank deals with is the jumpers. They constantly jump backwards or high, and whenever you attack, they just jump out of the way. Dealing with this is pretty much the same strategy, but it's better to cut back on the waiting part, because unlike a dodge, jumping doesn't lock the enemy in dodge frames, and they can interrupt it into another jump whenever. Plus, they're not invulnerable, so you don't need to wait too much, and if you do, then they'll jump again. In this clip, I start from the ground, and the pressure is that I would attack from the ground, because I did that a lot this match, as you can tell by the Ada using a down air, which hits directly below her. So I dodged forward on the ground once, but then I dodged diagonally upwards, and then hit her, which avoids her attack, while punishing her for doing the wrong move. In this clip, the Ada barely avoids an attack, while I missed, so I couldn't attack right away, so I decided to follow her and jump then side air, and this worked because the pressure of me using a sidelight or a downlight after she missed forced her to jump backwards. So there it is. With the pressure, wait, then punish method, you will be able to punish players by simply waiting a fraction of a second while being on the offensive the whole time. To review it one last time, there's 3 steps. The first step is to force out a dodge or jump from the enemy by pressuring them with the possibility of an attack heading their way, but not actually doing said attack. You can do this by going forward into the range of a certain attack that you have previously used. You don't necessarily have to have used the attack before, but it's more likely they will react to it if you have, but then you don't do the attack. The second step is wait. Do something that will allow you to attack quickly afterwards, like dodging, especially speed dodging, jumping, or just standing there. The third and last step is to punish the enemy after they have used their jump or dodge. That's it. If done correctly, these 3 steps can beat runners, dodgers, jumpers, and even wall huggers. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and share the video with your friends. Check out my chain dodging guide if you haven't already to help you with the method I showed in this video. Shout out to Bazilon for supporting these videos. I'll see you guys next time.